Today I'm starting with my little mascot. This is my little Jovi mascot. If you've been on a page of Creating with Jovi, you will see down in the corner she has the cutest little flamingo. Of course, mine's missing the little bow or hat of flowers, but I got this flamingo, so every time I would look at it, I would remember how honored I am to be part of Creating with Jovi's design team. So thank you so much, Jovi. And here's looking at you with my little flamingo. Hi there, and welcome to the Paper Garden. This is a little creative corner inside Grace and Gardens. Grace and Gardens is actually a biblical and artful journal that I've been working on, and it's a page that I started so you can be rooted in love in your garden and grow and create a harvest. But during the winter months, I need to have something else to do. So I started art journaling last August, and this past couple months ago, I was brought on to Jovi's design team. Yesterday, day 11, I created this little cherub card, and I added some extra glitter to it because I know Jovi and a few of the other collaborators like to use sprinkles, a little glue that has glitter inside of it that dries flat, and I wanted the same thing, but I've yet to purchase it. So I added just glue and then sparkles to mine, and I have this cute little cherub and then a little love note on the inside. Today I'm going to be working with one of Jovi's kits. She has two design kits that I've been working out of for the last 2 weeks. One is the Victorian Valentine's digital kit, and this is Love is in the Air. And so I have this beautiful woman in her hat and a little you and me sparkle, and then I did add a heart on the inside. Now these are my pre-made cards. So what I'll do now is go in and we will start with our actual card. Well, once I printed this out, and here's a little bit more of the rest of the kit, as you can see how vibrant these colors get once I printed it out on a truer paper, and see even the difference of from here to here. This is a little more muted, and then with a premium paper, I've gotten a clearer vision. But so what I've done is I want to have, instead of the blue, because this is more muted, I'm going to go with this purple, which will make that hat pop. So I take my pre-made cards. I've had these around the house for quite a while, and I always corner them off so that way I know which side I'm working with the card. And then I also like to round off the corners of my cardstock. So I will round these corners off to put on the top of this card. I like to do this because I like the extra dimension of having a raised card. I'd actually even thought about using dots that would lift it up, like foam dots or foam paper. But this has been working for the last couple weeks, so I thought I would go ahead and continue this approach. So a little Elmer's glue on top of that, and it's all set. So if you've been around, you've been hearing that I like to rip my paper versus cut it. So I'm going to use my ripper ruler, and I got this off of Temu for just a couple dollars. I thought it was a really good, sweet little investment. I actually just saw one on Amazon. It was quite a few more dollars, but I thought, you know what, if you've got the time to wait for Temu, I would just do Temu. You just have to make sure that you press down in the center so you get that full rip. But it has been one of my favorites. I do like to rip my paper so I get that rough edge. And also it helps take off these little white borders. I don't have my printer print borderless, so I just print right on top of it like that. And because I come from the art journal world, I like to distress mine with some Jim Holtz Distress Oxide. Favorite color amongst most of the collaborators or art journalers is this one, the Vintage Photo. Earlier in one of these past videos, I described how this was a new container of ink. But if you have an older container, I have actually poured ink right on top of it to make it full again, and I've actually dabbled a little water right on top of it, and it seemed to activate it to give me a little more color. I like to get as much wear and tear out of each tool as I can, since these tools are constantly being used. But I do find that using tools is probably one of the best investments in using when you're making cards, is to use as much as you can. So I'm going to place her down like that, like I did on the other one, and glue this down. I'm part of a design team for Jovi, and I come with quite a few other collaborators, which has been really fun because I'm not only am I seeing their artwork, and each one of us are a little bit different, but I like to look at their styles, their techniques, and I'm learning off of their YouTubes, and I think they're probably learning off of mine, or I hope they are, because my whole idea is to learn as much as I can, but then I want to be able to share it. I respond back to people like Jovi, like this digital kit. Look how beautiful that is. I may use this for like Mother's Day or even for a birthday card. And these are so pretty to use as journaling cards. I thought this would be great. I have this printed on cardstock, but this one reminds me, if you have a friend that's climbing the ladder of success or going up in the world, I wouldn't go as far as death, but you know what I mean, something fun and exciting to celebrate. These are so vibrant. I just can't imagine wearing these shoes. 10 years ago, I had both my knees replaced on the same day. It was a bilateral, and I don't think I've seen heels or been in heels since that long ago. And then this is the last page that I have. This actually came out of her Victorian Valentine's Day kit, and this was absolutely breathtaking because it has all this vibrant red to work with. Now I pre-cut this out so that way you didn't have to watch me cut paper. These are the scissors I've been using in my candles, so they're a little bit of a mess there. But let me just clean this up a bit. What I like again about this distressed ink is when you have this little bit of a white border like that when you're cutting, instead of cutting off more that would go into that line, I could take like a black Sharpie or something and white it out. But with this, I just like that vintage look. If you go back to my cards, they all have that vintage look to it. Jovi created a playlist for our entire team, which is really nice. If you go onto her page, you'll see the whole team's been listed. So you can sit there and look at everybody who did day one and everybody who did day two, and you take it all the way through. And it's a nice way to really get an idea of what everybody's doing. Then I actually created my own playlist, so if you happen to like art journaling or more of a tear method, then you can see all mine every day. This has been my checklist that I've been going through to make sure I cover as much as I can. I don't want to just create a journal or a card. I like to be able to show as many techniques as I can. I like to have the techniques as my foundation. One of my other loves or passion is cooking, and I actually would follow America's Test Kitchen because I didn't want to learn a recipe as much as I wanted to learn how to mise en place, which I do in my artwork. I pull all my ingredients or all my paperwork together to start with, or how to chiffonade some basil. So I wanted to learn all the techniques instead of just how to put a card together. And that's what I've been doing with this week, or these past 2 weeks. So in my last couple of videos, I've done clusters, belly bands, pockets, tags, vellum, stencil, collaging. I used a wax seal. That's actually a funny video because I didn't really mess up that bad, but it was my first experience with wax. It was a very hot thing to do. Journaling cards, paper clips, dangles. Paper clip is a really good one because I show you how to get rid of that hump in the middle. Dangles, doily, crystals, scriptures and quotes. Scriptures and quotes come from, with my page being called Grace and Grains, it is the Word of God, and then the grains is the garden, and you're putting the two together. And that'll be what I'll be focusing on going forward after these 14 days, is pulling that together also. Because that's actually my love, is being able to share the Word of God to just encourage women that are going through difficulties of life. because I want us to all to stick together and just help each other. I think that's so important. Something I like to do is I use Elmer's glue when it's inexpensive, just to put down a big piece of glue like this. But when I come, and then when I add, as it dries, if there's a little piece sticking up, then I go in with something like this. Now I gotta tell you something about this glue. I look back at my history of this glue, and I bought it in, I think, November, and this is 2 ounces, and I think to replace it is like $14. Well, I just bought an 8-ounce container of it for $16. So only $2 more, I was able to get 8 ounces. And the important thing about this bottle is the tip. But if you keep the right pin in it, and I think I finally found the right pin, because every time I put a pin in it, it would rust, and then the first couple drops that came out would be rusty. But I periodically pull out this tip and clean it. Yesterday I cleaned it with the mascara wand just to get it cleaned. But having the right pin in it, and then you can get into the tightest places, and it really sticks really well. So there's a good savings. You want to try that. What I'm going to do with this part is I did find this really pretty ribbon on, I think it was with Temu also. I go into Temu about once a month and just drop about, I think you have to spend $20 to get free shipping. Like, okay, I'm game. So that's what I do. I'll just put a little bit down here in the middle. But I thought these colors really came out pretty on this card. So let that sit for a second. And then what I'm going to do, because one thing I was checking off everything as I went along here, was a button. So I do have this little button, and I'm going to put that right here just to combine the colors on this. Now, because I made so many cards these last 2 weeks, I made 14 to begin with, just to have like a pre-card to see what I was doing. And then I've made now 13 cards these last couple days for the week, live on YouTube. I didn't have a button yet. So there's my button. So let me just go in here. Let me get this off. Candle wax on it. I think that's a really pretty card. And then I picked up one of these other little stickers. I just had a couple of Valentine Day stickers that I'm going to put on the inside of it. Oh, this has a little musical notes on the inside. I just think it's pretty, really pretty. So there would be my card for day 13. The last thing I have to put on it is when I take my cards, all my cards have been signed on the back. So I just put down Rhonda, my first name, and then it's 26. And this is card 13, so I put that down. And then the other day I was playing around and I created these QR codes. And I created it into a 1-inch circle. I printed it on the sticker sheet. And the QR code is actually in brown tones because I wanted to match my garden theme. And I have a little logo for my Grace and Grains that I put on the inside. And then I found that if you use this pin, it'll pull right off. And I don't know if it makes a difference or not, but if you can see that it has this this reverse 7, these 3 dots. I just make sure that's straight up like that. But I gave these cards out to my women's ministry this week, and I told them, instead of me signing the card to them and saying Happy Valentine's Day, I said, here's my card that I signed it as an artist. And then this actually, if you scan it, it goes as a QR code. It goes right into my YouTube place, and you can watch all my videos. And I said, if you'd like to take this card and then sign it yourself and pass it on to a friend, it's a way to share your love to each other. So for tomorrow, which is day 14, I'm going to go back into my collaging and use all the different papers that I haven't used on my last day. But until then, may you be rooted in love and grow in grace. This is Rhonda from Grace and Gardens. Thank you so much.